There is a kind of habit that quietly shapes your life without ever appearing on a planner, a to-do list, or a productivity app. These are not the habits people proudly post online or write down for New Year resolutions. These habits are subtle, almost invisible, tiny behaviors that repeat themselves every day without asking for attention. Yet these small, unnoticed actions carry enormous power. They are the real architects of your future, the quiet forces designing your mindset, influencing your decisions, and determining who you eventually become. Most people believe transformation begins with big, dramatic actions. They think they need a strict routine, intense motivation, or a complete lifestyle overhaul. But real, sustainable change begins with micro shifts, tiny choices consistently repeated until they become part of your identity. These invisible habits are the roots beneath the surface, shaping everything above it. Invisible habits show up in the split-second decisions you make every day, how you respond when you wake up, the way you speak to yourself when something goes wrong, the little choices you make when no one is watching, the micro comforts you reach for when overwhelmed, and the quiet reactions that have become automatic. They take place in 3 seconds or less. They're not loud and they're not dramatic, but because they're automatic, they're powerful. They govern the direction of your thoughts, the same way tiny streams eventually carve great rivers. If your invisible habits align with your goals, growth feels natural. But if your invisible habits contradict your goals, you feel stuck. Not because you are weak or lazy, but because your unconscious patterns are stronger than your conscious intentions. The science behind invisible habits explains why they matter so deeply. Your brain is designed to save energy, so it loves routines, especially small ones. Every time you repeat even the tiniest action, your brain strengthens the neural pathway behind it. Over time, these pathways become the default route for your thoughts and behaviors. Invisible habits operate in the subconscious mind, the part of you responsible for more than 90% of your daily actions. That's why change can feel so hard at the beginning. You're not just fighting a behavior, you're rewiring a pathway. But because invisible habits are small and manageable, they slip beneath the brain's resistance. They don't trigger fear, stress, or overwhelm. Instead, they quietly reshape the mind through gentle repetition. While motivation rises and falls, invisible habits remain steady. They do not rely on inspiration or energy. They rely only on consistency. Psychologically, the power of invisible habits comes from their ability to influence identity. True change does not happen when you force yourself into new behaviors. It happens when you begin to see yourself differently. Identity is not built through huge breakthroughs or bold promises. It is built through small, repeated evidence. If you read even one page at night, you begin to see yourself as someone who reads. If you stretch for a few seconds each morning, you become someone who cares for their body. If you pause before reacting, you become someone who is calmer and more grounded. None of these habits are dramatic, but they create a quiet accumulation of proof. And proof slowly reshapes who you believe you are. Once identity changes, behavior follows naturally. People who seem disciplined are not relying on willpower. They simply have invisible habits that make discipline feel effortless. Invisible habits also reveal emotional patterns that often trace back to old wounds. Many people carry behaviors today that were originally created for survival in childhood. Automatically apologizing even when you did nothing wrong, shrinking your voice during conflict, constantly checking your phone for comfort, avoiding rest because you feel guilty taking a break. These are invisible habits rooted in past pain. Sometimes they come from trauma, rejection, or an environment where small behaviors were used to stay safe, unseen, or acceptable. These patterns become subconscious and continue into adulthood, even after the danger has passed. Becoming aware of these habits is a gentle form of emotional healing. Changing them is even more powerful. Instead of forcing major emotional breakthroughs, invisible habits allow you to rewrite these patterns through small, safe, steady shifts. They help create a new internal world, where peace and confidence slowly replace fear and self-doubt. Every person has invisible habits that either support their growth or quietly sabotage it. Some people immediately think, "I can't," before trying. Some wake up and reach for their phone before their own thoughts. Some dismiss compliments. Some react without breathing. Some replay old conversations, assume the worst, or compare themselves without realizing it. These habits don't scream, they whisper, but their cumulative effect is enormous. They shape mood, mindset, confidence, and clarity. Replacing these patterns with healthier, more supportive, invisible habits can shift the emotional tone of your entire life. The true power of invisible habits lies in micro shifts, small internal decisions that eventually lead to sweeping transformation. When you choose to breathe instead of react, drink water instead of scroll, step outside for a moment instead of sitting with anxiety, you are sending a message to your brain. We are doing things differently now. This message, repeated again and again, begins to rewire pathways that once felt permanent. Slowly, quietly, you become a different version of yourself, not through force, but through gentle repetition. And because invisible habits require so little energy, they are the most sustainable path to long-term change. They build identity from the inside out. They adjust emotional patterns without creating overwhelm. They turn intentions into reality by making transformation feel natural instead of impossible. This is the quiet power of invisible habits. They change you before you even realize you're changing. Invisible habits are not just behaviors. They are emotional patterns, mental shortcuts, and automatic reactions shaped by years of repetition. They influence how you handle stress, how you interpret situations, and how you decide between comfort and growth. Most people don't realize that the smallest daily choices eventually become the lens through which they see the world. For example, someone whose invisible habit is to expect disappointment will interpret neutral situations as threats. Someone whose invisible habit is to assume others won't understand them will stop expressing their needs. Someone whose automatic habit is to numb stress with distractions will struggle to develop resilience. All of these patterns happen below the surface, often without any conscious thought. This is why life feels repetitive for many people, not because nothing changes around them, but because their internal patterns remain the same. The nervous system plays a major role in invisible habits. When you grow up in an environment where you had to stay quiet, walk on eggshells, or predict other people's emotions to feel safe, your body learns to respond to stress with hypervigilance. So even as an adult, your invisible habits might include shrinking, avoiding conflict, overfunctioning to keep peace, or always taking responsibility for everyone's feelings. Your body repeats old survival strategies because they once worked, not because they still help you. That's the tricky thing about invisible habits. They are emotionally logical, even when they are practically harmful. The body clings to what is familiar, not what is healthy. By introducing small, gentle shifts, you help your nervous system experience safety in new behaviors. Over time, these micro-experiences create new emotional patterns. You slowly teach your mind that life does not need to be lived through fear or self-protection. The power of invisible habits can be seen in how quickly they accumulate. A single tiny choice may seem insignificant in the moment, but repeated consistently, it becomes a form of self-direction. Waking up and drinking a glass of water might feel pointless on its own. Reading one page of a book might feel too small to matter. Breathing for 5 seconds before reacting might seem like nothing, but these tiny decisions stack. They create mental momentum, a sense of inner alignment. When you do something small that benefits your future self, you build a kind of self-trust that no motivational speech can give you. You prove to yourself, over and over again, that you are capable of showing up. And that feeling quietly expands, shaping how you act in bigger situations. Invisible habits also influence the stories we tell ourselves. The story of, "I'm not disciplined," "I'm always stuck," or "I'm just not that type of person," often comes from years of repeating small behaviors that confirm those beliefs. But when you begin practicing tiny supportive habits, you create evidence that challenges those old narratives. Suddenly, you're no longer the person who can't change. You're the person who is changing. Not through massive effort, but through consistent micro-actions. This shift in self-perception is one of the most powerful forms of transformation because it alters your internal identity. And identity determines destiny far more than motivation or willpower ever will. One of the most overlooked aspects of invisible habits is how deeply they impact emotional regulation. Many people believe their reactions are just part of their personality, being easily irritated, anxious, numb, or overwhelmed. But these patterns often come from unnoticed habits of thought. For example, the habit of catastrophizing, jumping to the worst-case scenario, can turn small issues into crises. The habit of self-criticism can drain your confidence before you even act. The habit of comparing yourself to others can keep you stuck in insecurity. These habits shape your emotions because emotions follow thought patterns. By gradually introducing small shifts, such as pausing before judging yourself, taking one slow breath during conflict, or gently challenging one negative assumption, you start creating emotional space. This space is where healing happens. This space is where your reactions soften and your clarity strengthens. Invisible habits also determine the quality of your relationships. How you listen, how you respond to discomfort, how quickly you judge, how openly you express needs, how you handle silence. All of these are influenced by silent patterns. Two people can experience the same situation and react completely differently because of the invisible habits they've developed over the years. A person whose invisible habit is to withdraw during conflict may think they are protecting the relationship, while the other person interprets it as distance or rejection. A person who grew up pleasing everyone may habitually say yes to things they cannot handle, slowly building resentment. These patterns create emotional distance, misunderstandings, and silent frustration. Changing relationship habits doesn't require dramatic conversations. It requires small, consistent shifts. Pausing before reacting, expressing one honest feeling a day, asking one simple question to understand someone better. Tiny efforts compound into emotional closeness. Another profound effect of invisible habits appears in self-worth. People often associate self-worth with achievements, good grades, promotions, accomplishments, external validation. But real self-worth grows from the way you treat yourself in small, private moments. Self-worth is shaped by the invisible habits of how you talk to yourself, how gently you treat your mistakes, how much permission you give yourself to rest, and how consistently you honor your needs. When these invisible habits are harsh, dismissive, or neglectful, self-worth remains fragile no matter how successful you become. But when these habits become kinder and more supportive, self-worth strengthens naturally. You don't have to convince yourself that you deserve better. You begin to feel it through the way you treat yourself daily. As you understand these invisible forces, you begin to realize that your life is not shaped by the big decisions you make once a year. It is shaped by the tiny decisions you make every single day without noticing. And this is both powerful and liberating. It means you don't need massive willpower to change your life. You don't need to force huge routines, reinvent your identity overnight, or wait for the perfect moment. Instead, you can begin with one gentle shift, something small enough that your mind won't resist, yet meaningful enough to create momentum. Over time, these small shifts accumulate into new wiring, new patterns, and eventually a new you. When you start paying attention to your invisible habits, you also start noticing how much of your life runs on autopilot. You realize how often you reach for your phone, not because you need it, but because your hands move before your mind does. You notice how quickly your thoughts drift into worry or self-doubt without you consciously choosing to go there. You observe how eating, walking, speaking, resting, and even breathing often follow old patterns you never questioned. This awareness can be uncomfortable at first. It can feel like discovering that you've been living your life on a loop. But this awareness is also empowering, because once you see a habit, you can influence it. The switch from unconscious to conscious is the birthplace of transformation. You cannot change what you do not notice, but once you notice it, the grip it has on you weakens. The beauty of invisible habits is that changing them does not require perfection. It does not require extreme discipline or an all-or-nothing mindset. In fact, invisible habits thrive through gentleness. The smaller the shift, the easier it becomes for the mind to accept it. Change that feels soft is change that stays. You do not have to go from chaos to structure overnight. You can simply begin by altering the tone of your inner voice, adjusting your posture when you feel overwhelmed, taking one conscious breath before checking your phone, or placing your journal somewhere visible so that writing even one line becomes effortless. These tiny changes slowly create a domino effect in your mindset. The more you succeed at small actions, the more confident your brain becomes in your ability to transform. Confidence grows from consistency, not from scale. Invisible habits also determine how much emotional energy you carry each day. Many people feel drained, not because their lives are overwhelmingly busy, but because the tiny mental habits they practice all day silently exhaust them. Replaying old arguments, imagining worst-case scenarios, criticizing themselves for every flaw, checking notifications every few minutes, or constantly worrying about others' opinions. Each of these habits takes a small amount of energy, but when repeated 100 times a day, they drain your emotional reserves. Replacing them with healthier micro-habits, like pausing when you catch a negative thought, taking a moment to breathe before responding, or actively redirecting your attention, gradually restores your emotional energy. Over time, you begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more centered, not because your life became easier, but because your mind became calmer. Invisible habits even influence your perception of time. When your mind is constantly distracted, anxious, or overstimulated, time feels rushed and chaotic. But when your invisible habits include small moments of stillness, even a 10-second pause can create a sense of spaciousness in your day. The day feels less like a sprint and more like a steady flow. Ironically, the more small pauses you create, the more time you feel you have. This is why mindfulness practices work, not because they take long, but because they shift the rhythm of your mind. A 5-second breath can change the emotional tone of an entire hour. A 2-minute stretch can soften the tension of an entire afternoon. A single mindful moment can interrupt a cycle of overwhelm. Another powerful aspect of invisible habits is how they influence your future opportunities. Many people think success happens through big, dramatic efforts, but the truth is that most opportunities arise from the accumulation of small habits that make a person dependable, creative, calm, or consistent. Someone who practices the invisible habit of finishing small tasks immediately often appears more reliable. Someone who reads a little every day develops a deeper understanding of the world, which enhances their ability to communicate and make decisions. Someone who greets others with kindness creates a network of goodwill that opens doors. Someone who regularly tries new things, even in small ways, builds adaptability. None of these habits are loud or impressive.